Let's talk about housing. For so many people, the dream of owning a home feels like it's just slipping away. It's a massive problem. But in a really rare moment of unity, Congress is actually pushing forward one of the biggest housing plans we've seen in decades. So let's dive in and see what's actually inside. I mean, this is the question, right? Why has the American dream gotten so unbelievably expensive? It doesn't matter if you're looking for a starter home or a place for your family, the costs have just spiraled out of control. It feels less like a dream and more like a total fantasy these days. Well, believe it or not, there's a huge bipartisan answer coming out of Washington. Seriously, they've put together this massive plan to tackle housing costs head on. So we're going to break down exactly what's inside this thing. First, let's just set the stage for the problem we're dealing with. It's not just one thing making housing so expensive. It's really a perfect storm of factors that have created this full-blown affordability crisis all across the country. And you can see all those factors right here. Of course, you've got the crazy increases in house prices and rents. We all feel that. Then pile on rising mortgage rates that make every loan more expensive, and even property insurance is costing more. But the real kicker, the one this new plan is really zeroing in on, is that last one. There just aren't enough homes to go around. So how did Washington decide to tackle this? Well, it didn't start with just one plan. It actually started with two different bills, one in the House and one in the Senate, kind of running on parallel tracks, but aiming for the exact same goal: make it easier and cheaper to build homes in America. So on one side, you had the House with its Housing for the 21st Century Act. That one was really focused on updating old programs and giving towns more flexibility. And over in the Senate, you had the Road to Housing Act, which was aiming for the same thing, boosting supply, but with its own spin on it. The big challenge, of course, was figuring out how to bring these two big ideas together. And this is where it gets pretty interesting. You always hear about how messy lawmaking can be. So how do you actually take two different bills and turn them into one solid law? Well, let's just look at the timeline. And things moved surprisingly fast. The House passed its bill in early February. Then, just about a month later, the Senate took that bill, stitched in the best ideas from its own plan, and passed a brand new, stronger version. And that's where we are today, with this unified bill heading back to the House for one last look. Now, this is what made everybody really pay attention. The final vote in the Senate was 89-10. I mean, think about that. In today's world, getting that kind of bipartisan agreement is practically unheard of. It just goes to show you how seriously everyone is taking this crisis. And the end result of all that work is this: the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. It perfectly smashes the two names together. And more importantly, it combines the core ideas from both the House and Senate into one really powerful piece of legislation. Okay, so what does this big, powerful bill actually do? Well, it's basically built on three main pillars. Think of it as a three-pronged attack on the housing crisis. Let's break them down one by one.
Pillar number one is all about speed. Pretty much everyone agrees we need to build more houses, but all too often, local rules, zoning laws, and permitting just slow everything down to a crawl. This part of the bill is designed to clear out that logjam.
So how does it work? Well, instead of forcing cities to change, it incentivizes them. The bill sets up grant programs to help local governments reform their own zoning and permitting rules. It also speeds up those long federal environmental reviews that can add years to a project. And finally, it creates a kind of playbook of best practices for smarter land use that any community can adopt. All right, pillar number two is all about innovation, because if red tape is one part of the problem, the other is just a boring lack of options. This part of the bill is focused on creative ways to get more types of homes built and built faster. And this is a really cool idea inside the bill. It's pushing for the creation of something called pattern books. Think of them like catalogs of home designs that are already pre-approved and pre-vetted. Local governments can just adopt these books, which lets builders get permits in a tiny fraction of the usual time. It's a simple but brilliant way to speed things up. This might look a little technical, but trust me, this is a huge deal for affordability. For decades, manufactured homes legally had to be built on a permanent steel frame, like a trailer. This bill finally gets rid of that super outdated rule. And that one little change suddenly opens the door for all sorts of modern, multi-story manufactured homes that look and feel like traditional houses, but cost way, way less. So the final pillar shifts the focus from building homes to actually buying them. It's designed to tackle a growing fear that regular families are getting squeezed out of the market, not just by high prices, but by having to compete with huge corporations with deep pockets. And this idea really became a rallying cry during the negotiations. The feeling was that the market for single-family homes should be a level playing field for families, not a playground for giant investment firms. So, what exactly counts as one of these large institutional investors? Well, the bill draws a very clear line in the sand. Any company that owns more than 350 single-family homes is now in this category.
And the solution here is pretty direct. The bill puts restrictions on these big investors to stop them from buying up even more single-family homes. The whole point is to ease some of that all-cash corporate pressure and give first-time homebuyers a real fighting chance.
Okay, so we've gone through the what and the how of the bill, but let's bring it all home. If this thing actually becomes law, what could it really mean for you and for your community? Here's the bottom line. The hope is that you'll start to see more housing options pop up around you. Apartments, townhomes, those cool new manufactured homes. New projects might get built a lot faster, and when you go to buy a house, maybe you won't be competing against as many giant corporate buyers. Plus, behind the scenes, a lot of federal programs that help low-income families are going to get a much-needed update. Look, there is no doubt this is a monumental effort. It's ambitious, it's comprehensive, and amazingly, it's bipartisan. But let's be real, the housing crisis we're in is deep and it's complicated. So the ultimate question is still out there. Is this finally going to be the key that reopens the door to the American dream for a whole new generation? I guess only time will tell.